Hey, how you doing? This is John, and welcome to John's Long Box. It's Sunday Comics, and today we're going to check out X-Men 121, the second part of the two-parter of X-Men meeting Alpha Flight for the first time. Remember, they are stranded in Calgary, Canada, in the snow. And now I got... Of course, as soon as I go live, I got to sneeze. Okay, let's start all over again. So it's this trapped in the snow, and that's pretty topical as New York now is under a snow bomb. So there we go. How's everybody? So let's check out. So of course, Heroic Tales 2 is still available on Fund My Comic. You can still get it. I overprint. That's just normal. You find out how many you need, and then you overprint for in-person sales and convention. So there we go. We got Ben Samar, voice actor. Good morning, chat, and stay. Okay, I'll stay. I'm not going to go anywhere. Sorry, my head slipped. Stay safe in the storm. Yes. Bless me. He saw me sneeze. We got Dave Brink in the house. How you doing, Dave? Everybody pick up Perfect 10. That's on Fund My Comic. And is it Kickstarter? I forget, but Fund My Comic, get Perfect 10, issue 6, get the hardcover, and then Safeguard. I can't wait. I get all of Dave's books, all of Dave's comics. I can't wait. Perfect day to just drink coffee, read comics, write comics. Yes, New Jersey. Oh, that's where you are. You're in New Jersey. Getting attacked by the snow bomb. So I'll just filibuster a bit. What's going on? Yes, Uncle Floyd died. Uncle Floyd, local celebrity. He had the Oogie, the puppet. I remember Uncle Floyd was like a children's local television show in I guess it's out of New Jersey. Where was it from? I don't really remember where it was from, but I remember it was on like WOR, which was Channel 9 in New York during the day, and it was like a weird mix of like adult humor and kid humor, so it was like stupid jokes that kids would like, but then it had some like pretty funny, edgy stuff for adults. It was a really weird show that I do miss. I enjoyed it, and I don't know. It was like blink and you miss it. I'm sure it's got to be archived someplace. Lots of tongue in cheek. Yes. It was almost like Pee Wee Herman in the fact that like it started out as like an adult show and it became a kid show, but they did a lot of like subtle humor for to keep the adults interested. Yeah, and dad jokes. Yeah, I liked it. Yep, New Jersey, watched it on NJN. Yeah, Uncle Floyd. It was like a memory, long lost memory that got unlocked when I saw his face. I was like, I remember him. And he was in a couple of movies. He was like the radio announcer in League of Their Own. Yeah. He wasn't Captain Kangaroo, the same thing, like a children's TV show. But they kept it interesting for adults. Yep. Lots of tongue in cheek, dad jokes. Okay. Marcus is here. How you doing? So last night I had a talk with a friend. It was nice. We talked until about 2 a.m. It was cool. Maybe 1 a.m. And so that put me in a good mood. It's nothing bad. It's just that life gets in the way. You know what I mean? New job for him. My crazy hours. And then I guess the storm. Everybody was home, so we just chit chatted. That put me in such a good mood. In other news, a comic project was put on hold, and it was taken off hold. So that's good. Talking with all my artists, I want to amp up production, so I'm like cracking the whip. I'm like, yeah, no rush, but can you get some pages done, kind of thing. And I'm trying out a new artist who said he should have a finished page by today. I'm excited to see that. Hope it works out. Oh, man, I'm excited. Sent him a script that I thought was never going to see the light of day. and now the light of day looks like it might happen. So that's I'm excited. Excited. Renzo turned in another page for Patriarch #1. Normally by now I would have launched the campaign, but I'm kind of waiting. I'm waiting on a few things. I want to hear about a few things before I launch. Yeah, and I'm being tight-lipped about it. Okay. Uncle Floyd was very New Jersey, and WOR was out of Secaucus, New Jersey. Oh, really? I didn't know that. I didn't know that. WOR, which was Channel 9 for me growing up. And Channel 9 was always like it was like this close to public access. It was, on regular TV, but, like they will like lose one more advertiser in their public access TV. It was, and they had like a lot of children's programming. And I honestly don't remember watching anything on Channel 9 WOR like after 3:00. It was all like, like Julia's Fun School and then Uncle Floyd, and I don't even know what else. Now I'm curious what else they had on Channel 9. So I don't know what else to talk about, so we'll just dive into this comic. So if you remember, this is 1979. This cover is by Dave Cockrum and Terry Austin. Again, just shows you how my memory plays tricks with me. This, to me, in my mind, was always a John Byrne cover. And I didn't, but that's the Terry Austin influence. I didn't know as growing up as a kid, the style between like Neil Adams. There's like definitely a through line of Neil Adams, Dave Cockrum, John Byrne, and looking at this now as an adult, and again, like I was doing with Fabrizio last night and Brian Bow, we were talking about Mr. X. Like when I read the comic, I just sit and read it. But when I do these kind of videos, I'm kind of more analyzing. So like I just never realized the similarity, the house style or whatever of Neil Adams. I guess up until the Jim Lee era was the definitive style for the X-Men. It seems like everybody else was leading into that style, or the editors or whatever. Marvel wanted the X-Men to look like this, and it worked. I mean, look how good they came out. Yeah, the Mets are on Channel 9. That's right. That's why I never watched it. Not a baseball fan. So let's check this out. So again, big meandering story all the way from like what 110. So this is like 11 issues of them just trying to get home, over a year, because I think it was by month. What am I stepping on? I dropped a pencil or something. Just try to get home. Now they're in Calgary, Canada. That's how close they are. It's just like a big adventure around the world, not dealing with my mutant menace, It's just superhero adventures. Like they dealt with Mesmero, maniac, Magneto, just maniac, Moses Magnum, maniac, and then the petrified man, maniac, None of the stuff is mutants are persecuting me, and it's so good. And just okay, so look at this cover. We got the Storm going on. We got Storm shooting lightning bolts, Snowbird. So this is the first time we'll see them in costume. We saw them in civilian clothes last issue, and then we saw silhouettes, made them sinister, made them, who are these? Built up tensions, built up wonder, built up, intrigue, and now we see him on the costume. He was the only one. Vindicator was the only one that we saw in costume, and we know what he could do. The X-Men battle to save Wolverine from Canada's fighting mad superheroes. Those fighting mad Canadians. Nowadays, they would be all Indians. But here we go. Let's check it out. And yes, this is the copy that I got off the shelf back in 1979. The only reason it's as beat up as it is I didn't start bagging on Borden Comics until like maybe the mid 80s. So this was like 6 years just like thrown in a box. Zactan. Powers without virtue makes you crazy, apparently. Yeah, that's kind of a thing in my world, if you have power and not the fortitude and virtue to use it properly, that's like the definition of villainy. I mean, the best you could do is just be a person who wasted your gifts. Like you have a real cool ability to draw, and you just don't draw. You just go on YouTube and make fun of other people for 6 years instead of drawing the comic. That's just like a waste of your gift. Need more light. How's that? I know my face kind of glows, but who cares? Ralph Kinnear and Tim McCarver were the Mets TV broadcasters for years on Channel 19. Yep. The only reason why I knew that is because I worked the Mets scoreboard for about 5 years over at Citi Field. So we got a splash page. Again, splash page is a comic page with one panel, usually the first page. Not always, though. So we got Chris Claremont, John Byrne, author, co-plotters, pencil. So again, Chris Claremont writes the comic and plots it. John Byrne plots the comic and draws it. Terry Austin, inker. Diana Albers, letterer. That's like the first time I heard that name, I think. I'm not familiar with that name. But there seems to be a lot of like come and go and letterers. Excuse me, I just needed a sip. Glynis Wynn, colorist. Roger Stern, editor. Jim Shooter, editor-in-chief. 1979. So the Calgary Stampede is called the greatest outdoor show on earth. And during the year, well over 1 million people visit the recreational complex surrounding the fairground. So this is a real place. And the X-Men come just smashing everything. The X-Men are just going to come smashing everything. Normally, I'm pretty harsh on the X-Men for destroying private property and everything. But you know what? In this particular case, I'll cut them some slack. They're just trying to get home. And Shaman just creates this gigantic storm that, like, let's be realistic. Look at this storm that's going on right now. Look at how many lives are affected. You're going to tell me that magic storm, that even storm the X-Men couldn't control, didn't like cause untold damage and everything like that? It's just reckless. It's just reckless. And then Sasquatch throws the airplane. They're just being jerks. Like, for a super team, I remember when they started to announce that they were going to make an Alpha Flight comic. I was kind of like, they're bad guys, they're bad guys, but whatever. So now the X-Men are all in costume and they're fighting mad, mean. Can't turn the page. There we go. So here we are. They're breaking into the Stampede. Cyclops, do we need to break those doors down? Storming out of Flonus inside. Tuiski Colossus, carrying both of us should be a sitting duck. That just bothers me, the wording. Flying, both of us should be a sitting duck. Besides, after what we've been through, I'm in no mood to be gentle. Which way, Cyclops? You scout ahead, Storm. See if you can spot anything from the air. Colossus and I will search on foot. And then we have the shady Shaman over here. We know who it is. In retrospect, not good. The X-Men obviously don't intend on giving up Wolverine without a fight. At least I can make sure no innocents get involved. Once I scatter some magic dust across the entrance, the entire Stampede grounds will be sealed. And then Cyclops over here, he's just like thinking. So now we got like a flashback. What's going on? Who missed it? We're gonna bring you back. This is the Jim Shooter. Jim Shooter's building on what Stan Lee already said about every comic book is somebody's first. So, and back then on the newsstand, people did miss comics. So Cyclops is like, what brought us up here? So we're talking about the storm, Vindicator, it being attacked. The airplane getting tossed by Sasquatch. Storm makes it literally a fog so they could escape. Battling of Vindicator, over at I forget what tower that is. And, you could see that the edges are rounded, indicating a flashback. The weird use of colors is also showing that, like, it's not to be taken as the present. And, what's going on, blah, 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 blah. So now brought us up to speed. Everybody's all caught up, and now Storm shows up. Perfect time to begin the action. I found them. I love this. The way they make Storm's cape look like wings. It's just so cool. Again, I'll say it again. Nobody draws Storm like John Byrne. Colossus over here, look at all metallic. I just love this art. I could just look at this artwork over all day long. It's so good. So good. Oh, going forward, I'll check out the comic, do the comics. Okay, going forward. Where do we go? Oh, Zaktan. If it's a magic storm, that can make sense why Storm could not get rid of it as a powers aside. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Plus, she in my way of thinking, and the way I would do it in my role-playing game, is a regular storm is just a regular storm. You don't have. She just uses her powers, but now it becomes a contest with somebody else. So that would be like a will versus will contest. You know what I mean? So you'd have to make a saving throw versus from Storm to Shaman kind of thing, because there's an outside force. That's the way it would work in my game. Whoever saves better would gain control of the Storm. Omnipro, how you doing, Omnipro? Good on Cyclops for even considering giving up Wolverine. Yeah, you cannot give in to terrorists. Nostalgia. Yep, sure. I hear my wife vacuuming upstairs. So here we go. The Storm is doing that, and we got ads. Get a banana. Get some Fun Factory gifts. So again, I need to point this stuff out because this is kind of lost nowadays. But this is how you use ads as part of the comic book experience. Storm says, "I found them." Turn the page. What's going on? This increases the tension a little bit. You know what I mean? This is the kind of stuff you miss if you get it in trade paperback. But this is the kind of stuff they don't do anymore. Now we turn the page, and we get the someone's at my door. Oh, it's my wife. Okay, she's outside shoveling snow. She loves to shovel snow. So we got Colossus, Cyclops, Storm. Remember, Banshee is injured. Wolverine is being captured. Nightcrawler was knocked out. So, they're behind the 8 ball. Colossus ripping off the fence. Storm, I don't know if you could see, but Storm's like swooping up. We got all these builds. This is just like a lot of this whole page is just setting up the tension, the stakes, giving us the setting. Where are they fighting in this big arena? And we got Nightcrawler and Wolverine just in the middle. He goes, I guess the bottom line is Storm is that Wolverine is our friend, and whatever the cost, the X-Men take care of their own. An admirable sentiment, Cyclops, but this time may cost you more than you could bear, which is villain talk. That's villain talk. You know what I mean? It may cost you more than you could bear. Just like, hey, he's under contract for us. We need him back. You know what I mean? Like, just explain yourself. No, this is total villain talk. This is Alpha Flight, Canada's first team of superheroes, the culmination of decades of intensive research and development, and they think they're on equal of any supergroup on Earth. So we got Aurora, Shaman, North Star, Sasquatch, Snowbird, and Vindicator. We've no quarrel with you, X-Men. You can take your blue script friend and go. We'll guarantee you safe conduct of the state, but Wolverine stays. Look at this. This is whoever owns this page, man. Lucky you. I wonder if John Byrne sold it, or whoever owned it, because back then they divided up the art among the writer, artist, and inker. So it was just supposedly random who they gave the art to, and I wonder if John Byrne got it, or Chris Claremont got it, or Terry Austin got it. It's just so. This is part of history. This is the first time Alpha Flight is together, one page in costume. Yeah. Omnipro says, "What a splash page! Alpha Flight actually look intimidating. They are intimidating. These guys as far as I know, these guys were the fastest speedsters in Marvel at the time, and they could fly, which is pretty powerful. And then they did that flash of light thing. Shaman does whatever Shaman, he's magical, get out of jail free card powers. Vindicator, he's got flight, enhanced strength, energy projection, and then he's got that weird semi teleportation. Just basically the standard superhero set. Snowbird changes into animals, and then she's got this like other mystical stuff, and then Sasquatch is Hulk level strength. Yeah, this is a pretty badass team. And they just look so cool together. They do have a unique look. Yeah, I gotta say, like, how could you not like this team at this point, especially drawn by John Byrne? What got me annoyed is they just started changing their looks almost right away in when they got their own comic. I don't know. It just I wanted to like the X-Men, the Alpha Flight comic. I just wanted to like it, but it just never seemed to hit the ground running. It just kind of just moseyed around. Did John Byrne design their costumes? Yes, he did. I think, right? I think John Byrne pretty much created them whole cloth. That's what I think. Marcus can back me up or whatever. The pencil and ink split the book, and sometimes they were right. It got 2 pages. Yeah, that's what I heard. And supposedly it was like random or something like that. Yeah, Alpha Flight was all Byrne. There you go. So there you go. I don't know. I really like the designs of this team. Just they never lived up to how cool they looked. We got more ads. Again, we see the team. Now what's going to happen? Commercial break. Dun, 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 this juicy fruit gum. It was like, oh, that's really, it lost its flavor. It was like instantly lost its flavor. So now, Misty Knight, Colleen Wing, and Banshee, they are the civilians now. Remember, Banshee lost his powers fighting Moses Magnum. They are pulling up, and they're trying to get in. And what happens? They're sealed out. So that brings us up to speed. What did Shaman do? He put the magic seeds, and he put like a magic force field to keep out people. This is the first time we're seeing Alpha Flight actually care about property damage, about loss of life. Again, they didn't do him any favors by just making him look like this bloodthirsty group of goose steppers, right? Like they just doing whatever. Oh, we got to get Wolverine. All right, let's make a storm and create billions of dollars. Like that storm must have done more damage than the whatever money they invested in Wolverine. A wall. Looks like we hit a wall. Last time you almost killed Moira McTaggart, not to mention our own flight crew a few hours ago when Sasquatch dragged our plane. Those were accidents. That you want to get on my bad side, do something bad, and then just go, it was an accident. It was an accident. I hate the word accident. It's just a magic word that children and irresponsible adults think that they could just say to get out of consequence. It was an accident. Oh, okay. No, when I was a teacher, I used to say, your job is to make sure you don't have accidents. I don't care about accidents. Accidents still cause pain. They still cause problems. Never use the word accident again or victim. Those are accidents. You seem to have a lot of them. That changes nothing. Our orders are to get Wolverine. What is North Star doing? Whether he wants to or not, that stinks. Considering the odds, Cyclops perhaps better get used to the smell. So he's trying to act tough. Suspicious flare. He's moving behind Cyclops. So Colossus just attacks. Beware, Cyclops. Oh, hey, I fear treachery. Buster, your skull's rusting. Sasquatch. No, I don't want to fight. So check this out. So the first couple pages, there was a lot of detail in the background. Great setup. We know where they are. It was really clever. They used that this real location. Apparently, John Byrne lived in this part of Canada, so he knew it pretty well. He must have described it or whatever. So he knew what to draw. He gave us a couple of pages, a lot of details. Now, look at this. From here on in, the details are kind of sparse. We don't need them because we know where they are. We have it in our head, and we're more concerned with the action. Like, again, I probably wouldn't even notice this if I was just reading, because they did a good job setting up the stage. But the background's gray. Why is it gray? It's gray. Or is that brown? I don't even know. Purple, pink. Now we got this overhead shot. So this is Byrne now using all the tricks of his trade to cheat, to not give us backgrounds. And it doesn't matter. Like right over here, we're just looking at the ground. As far as I'm concerned, that's a fully detailed background. Over here, pink. Why is it pink? Shut up, it's pink. But our mind is filling in all the details. It works. Something modern comics, you don't need to fill in all the details if you have a well-established set already. Your brain fills in the details over here. So Colossus stomps. Everybody loses their footing. Sasquatch, who's probably he is the heaviest. He's not affected by this. I love this. Vindicator's activating his defenses. And I always liked this as a kid. Nightcrawler teleports, and the force of his teleport breaks the ropes. Wolverine just rips his shirt off like Superman. Wolverine, you're awake? You got it, babe. Me and the elf are playing possum. Glad to hear it. We could use your help. Why did Peter strike like that? It's so unlike him to be so rash. That woman's airborne, Vindicator. I'll handle her. And as much as I like Alpha Flight Snowbird, you don't got a chance against Storm, especially in the air, But she's got unexplained goddess powers, There you go. So go figure. Let's check out the comments. As soon as Byrne stayed in Alpha Flight book, he split the team and they all had individual stories. I know. To me, he sabotaged the comic and then he left and then he killed Vindicator. Well, because he wanted Heather Hudson to be there. It's like, again, as much as I love John Byrne, and I do praise John Byrne's writing, I think Alpha Flight was one of the few low points of his career. The art looked great, but his writing was off. How often does Colossus use that Mega Stomp? I don't know. It's kind of cool. It's not like a unique power to him. It's anybody at his strength level could do it. The only thing is, should he have launched himself in the air? I don't know. I'm trying to figure out the physics of that. Hey, Stipling's here. Accidents are from human neglect or error only. Yeah, it's not an excuse. Oh, you burnt down my house because it was an accident. Okay. An accident is an admission that you did something stupid. And when you say it was an accident, what you should be saying is, I need to rectify this. I need to stop. It's not a magical excuse. Like I've seen this, like little kids hit another kid. Oh, sorry, it was an accident. It was an accident. I hate when, okay, it's an accident. What are you going to do about it? I knew it was an accident, because if I thought you did that on purpose, I'd be punching you in the face. You know what I mean? So an accident, it's basically admission of guilt. Storm for a snowboard, goddess fight. Once was cool, says good morning. How's everybody doing? Good morning to you. So here we go. We're going to turn the page. Oh no, more tension. The ads, again, that's what you do. That's what you do. You use the ads as part of the experience. Look what a penny could buy. Oh my God, a penny could buy these penny racers. Let's turn the page. So now we've got a close-up of Shaman over here. May the great spirit fly with you, Snowbird. Meantime, let's see what I could do to end this madness before someone gets hurt. Okay, gotta admit, this was cool. He takes out this little totem pole, throws it, and they just become animated figures. That is so freaking cool. That is so cool. And then I love this. Form on me, expert. We can't let them split us off, take us apart. So Cyclops uses his blast, and it's just shattering these wooden effigies, totems, golems, whatever you want to call them. And then, boom, you're pretty handy with those I-beams, X-Men. It's a pity you can't shoot them everywhere at once. Boom. Cyclops taken out. Shock. Cyclops is down. Guten Abend, Fraulein. We meet again. Oh, a teleporter, huh? I think it's time for you to start the evening with a fair fight. To do that, Monsieur Nightcrawler, you have to catch me. And that's far easier said than done. Boom. Of course, Nightcrawler goes after the girl. Snowbird flies as well as I do. She keeps forcing me away from the stadium. I could probably overwhelm her with my powers. The local weather patterns have become so unstable, I dare not take the risk. I love that. So this is Storm acknowledging part of the weakness of her powers. Shaman, if you ask me, irresponsibly used his magic to create this mega snowstorm. And Storm manipulates the weather. She doesn't create the weather. She manipulates the weather. I don't know what about now, but back then she manipulated the. So there's risk, and this magic that's freaking messing with the storm, is messing with the weather. It is she's aware that it could go nuts, whatever. So plus it's just a good way to even out the fight, but it works. It absolutely works. You may be a match for my human form, but can you even stand against an Arctic owl? Oh, she's a shape changer. So we established what Snowbird could do. She could fly, and now she can change shapes. Interesting. And then we cut to Wolverine. It's a nice little tension, building up tension. So we're learning what they could do. We're learning that North Star is a speedster. She's also a speedster. And then they leave, like they introduce their powers and then change the scene. This is pretty cool. Shaman does some magic and then change the scene. She does something, change the scene. Snowbird does something, change the scene. And we're back to Wolverine fighting these totems. I mean, it's almost like when you see Sasquatch and you hear that name Sasquatch, you just know exactly what he could do, right? It's just it follows my own. Everything falls from the name, like Snowbird. Okay, what could Snowbird do? Okay, she turns into a bird. She could fly. What does it have to do with snow? I don't know. Maybe she could shoot ice or something like that. But we learn later on. But I'm just as a kid, I would figure out Shaman. He's doing Indian magic. North Star and Aurora, super speed doesn't really work that well. I mean, North Star and Aurora, they got that flash of light. But what does that have to do with super speed? That to me is kind of a miss. It's kind of a miss. To me, North Star and Aurora would be North Star. If I was to create this and I had North Star and Aurora, North Star, magnets, North Star, so I would have him be some sort of like magnetic caster, and then Aurora, she would have light. That's what I would do. But their speed, that doesn't work for me. That doesn't work for me. Now, I'm used to it now after 30, 40 years of hearing it, but it doesn't work for me. So let's check out the comments. No excuses, only explanations. Yeah, an excuse is just an admittance that you did something wrong. It's just it's just a different way of saying that's my fault. There are no more pennies. No more pennies for you. Yeah, Aurora looks great over here. John Byrne drew women. Va-va-voom is the only way to describe it, right? 2 powers, super speed, and not slipping on ice. They also have that light blast. I thought this speed was flight only, not running. Yeah, but look, he's running over here. He can run, he can fly. That's he I think they could move, because if it was just flight, but I do think they can run. I think they can run fast too, because here he is. I mean, this is my introduction to the character, so looks like he's running. He's got his leg extended, and then I love this. Wolverine's just lashing out, fighting these things. We're getting creamed after months of beating some of the roughest characters on Earth. All of a sudden, we're coming apart like flaming amateurs. The key is teamwork, Wolverine, which we have it. You don't. And here we got Shaman just floating around, manipulating the storm. It's a little wind summoned by a pinch of powder and an ancient whispered incantation. And as the saying goes, it's the straw that breaks the camel's back. And we see Cyclops getting up. Let's turn the page. And the X-Men. To bring the X-Men to Calgary, Shaman warped weather systems from here to the North Pole, creating a cyclonic blizzard and then shunting it this way and that. In defiance of primal natural forces, he still thinks he's in control, unaware that the storm has developed a life of its own. Yeah, so Shaman is messing with, he's using magic to mess with the weather, and he's, basically being irresponsible. And Storm, like she said, she could have done something, but she recognizes that something bad was happening with the storm, so she pulled back. She's the specialist. She's more in touch with the storm than Shaman. That's my rule. That's the John Byrne rule. The specialist outranks the general practitioner. And here we have, like, they're in a restaurant and looks pretty rough outside, John. Oh, nothing to write about, Darice. Sooner or later, the spring has to snap. The elemental pressure cooker has to burst. Did you enjoy New York? You know I did, and I love seeing Grease on Broadway. So what do we got here? Me too. Darcy, look. Or Darice. So this is John Byrne, and I guess his dead wife. That's John Byrne. That's his dead wife. Egotistical John Byrne's always throwing himself into the comic books. And then we go back to Colossus and Sasquatch fighting. Your best shot, Rusty. I've taken worse from the Steelers. Front four. My turn, fellow. Let's see if you can give as good as you got. Boom. So we got Colossus and Sasquatch just brawling it out. Man, did love that as a kid. Flaming weather's starting to match this fight. It stinks. Shaman's riding air currents out of my reach. It must figure I'm finished. That's his mistake. I should have known Hudson wouldn't let me go and probably cost too much flaming money. I just wish I was going this route alone. I don't want my X-Men scragged on my account. I love fake tough guy talk. Cripes, he's getting scragged, that flaming, it sounds like Popeye or something. You know what I mean? Because or Yosemite Sam, but you can't have what he would really say. Hudson, vindicated, you must, Mr. Quit being stubborn, Wolverine. Say the word and this battle's over. North Star's as fast as Quicksilver, almost impossible to hit, especially with my head still reading from that punch. Colossus, you don't win with your fists. Use your brain. Cyclops said when he started teaching me judo, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. I love that. Like, use your brain. Oh, good idea. So he does the judo throw. And the eye of the blizzard is centered over the spell-sealed stampede grounds, and the weather within that eye is relatively calm. But outside, so inside the storm, it's it's where they're fighting. It's not that bad, but outside, it's just going nuts. I don't know if these are like comic book creators, because usually with this, they do close-ups of people. They use faces that they know. Jim, Corey, we got to get the people off the streets before the storm freezes them. So Jim, is that Jim Scalacrup? Corey, I don't know. Marcus, do you know who these people are? Oh, I got excited. I love this comic, so I forgot to read the chat. Alpha Flight is the bulk of Canada's defense budget. Cripes! Yeah, I know. John Byrne makes Wolverine's yellow costume looks as good as a brown one. Which do you like better? It's funny because I was used to this, so that when it turned to brown, I didn't like it, but then I grew to like the brown one better. My only criticism would be, I don't know, what color are Wolverines? Whatever color a Wolverine really is the color that his costume should be. So I got to look up what the Wolverines look like. As far as I know, like, they're not yellow. They're more brownish color, but I could be wrong. Use your mental stats. Yes. Fight smarter. Ooh. Anybody hear that? Thunder? Is that thunder? Look at this ad. Shogun Warriors and the Micronauts. Marvel Super Special Battlestar Galactica. Man, it was so much fun to be a kid at this point. Yeah. My phone's giving me alerts. Yeah, I think it's like storming now, like full on storm. Yep. 18 degrees. Sorry, just got distracted by it's either thunder or a truck. Oh, maybe it was a snowplow. No sign of Nightcrawler. Strange. I thought he was right behind me. If times were different, this would be fun, But I wish I was more like my brother Jean Paul. He's been a scrapper from the day he was born. Me at heart, I'm a lover. Farlene, boo. So Wolverine, Nightcrawler creeps on her, gives her a kiss. You elf. So like these days that would be inappropriate. That would be whatever. But the ugly guy's got to get some any way he can. I mean, look at Frog Tony, right? Don't ask her because she's going to say no. So just go and touch her inappropriately, the Frog Tony way, the CG way, and boom, Cyclops. Vindicators show a blast at Wolverine, and Heather and I gave you a chance, a home. Instead of us, you'd be a wild child. You see, today everything is because of me. When I am Vindicator is free, and I'm going to stay free or die. So he's got the claws out. He's ready to stab him. And suddenly, the core of the storm explodes. Winds of over 200 miles an hour thundering out across the plains. The snow is turning to ice and falling like knives or rifle bullets. So don't tell me nobody was hurt. Don't tell me nobody was killed. 200-mile-an-hour ice knives are falling from the sky, and nobody was killed. Even the force of the monster storm, the force is blunted by Shaman's mystical shield. Enough for its fury to get through. It's bringing the battle to a halt. What's happening? So inside this force field, they're starting to realize it. They're like, wait a minute, this storm is more than just a storm. What's going on? And again, this is Alpha Flight's fault. Anything that happens, and I can't help but think about this way as an adult now. When I think about World War Hulk, I'm like, this is a great story. And then I'm thinking, people were in all those buildings that got knocked down. I don't care what anybody says, even on a Sunday, in skyscrapers in Manhattan. I've worked in skyscrapers in Manhattan. There's still a good, depending, a couple of people a floor, doing maintenance, cleaning, whatever, security guards. There's always somebody in a building. There's never, unless the building is a derelict building, there's always somebody in there. And these buildings falling down, Hulk killed hundreds of people, if not thousands, and this is Shaman. People got hurt. I can't help it. So I can't help but be peppered against, Alpha Flight, and in their defense, they were just a one-shot story trick. You know what I mean? I don't think they counted on this. And Marcus says that John Byrne didn't particularly like them. So that's probably, why he didn't mind making them look bad like this. I mean, they look incompetent at best, malicious at worst. Oh, comments? I don't know who those people are, but Byrne probably did draw his friends. Yeah, he went as far as to name them, or Claremont named him, and then Byrne drew whatever. But Wolverines are brown, but the University of Michigan's colors are blue and yellow. Oh, okay. So that's why. Okay, I didn't know that. That explains. Tally ho! Who's saying tally ho? Wolverine becomes American. Us. Why didn't Vindicator blast Wolverine forward? Is it an explosion? Yeah. Boom. So he's fired behind him. There's just a ubiquitous blast. And then I love the coloring over here. They just gave up. So she colored Cyclops, Nightcrawler, North Star, Wolverine, Vindicator, and then she just ran out of steam over here. But it works because we could say that they're behind the storm. Now we got the Fantastic Four with Herbie. I hated Herbie. I look at this comp like they couldn't throw an Iceman in there. They were the Human Torch was under contract for something else. So they couldn't use the Human Torch. So, I'm trying to think, but Iceman, I'm trying to think, is there anybody? They could have made up anything other than Herbie the robot. It's so freaking stupid. Make up a new character and then, add him into Marvel later. So here's some cool stuff. So now we got Storm fighting Snowbird, and she's in the form of a giant bird. Yeah, Snowbird's coming closer with every pass, yet I dare not use my power. Goddess, the storm is out of control. Shaman, what have you done? He used his spells to whistle up a great wind, assuming that they could easily be turned off as a switch light. I can't waste my time. It may already be too late. I must deal with Snowbird. I should have thought of this before. With the stretching capacity of the unstable molecules of my cape, Snowbird shouldn't be able to claw herself free. So I like that. She takes off her cape, grabs this bird, and the unstable molecules have whatever powers they need, and but it's just so freaking cool. The unstable molecules, they withstand Reed Richards stretching, the Human Torch's fire, they turn invisible. As far as I know, this is the first time she's mentioning it, but it's I just love that kind of stuff. And she uses the innate comic book lore to defeat a villain, and just dumps her on the ground. If I only tried once to shape a storm like this. I failed, and the effort nearly killed me, but I dare not fail now. The blizzard's core reached a frightening intensity before it started expanding unchecked. It may not blow itself out until next summer, if even then. So this storm is just Magic Storm Plus. Arms outstretched, she's flying into the sky, and look at this. She's just, summoning up everything. The color, everything is working so good in this panel. The power dynamic pose, the color, the line motions, and then Chris Claremont is just throwing in the purple prose. Her perceptions widen until she sees and feels the storm, not as clouds and wind, but as patterns of energy. She reaches out with mind and body and soul, becoming one with the tempest. And then gently, at first, she draws it to channeling it through the power, blah, 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 blah. And over here, she's just releasing the counter spells, whatever. It's just, showing the effort that she's taken. The storm was more powerful than I thought, forced me to tap into the electrical potential of the energy of the earth itself. I never want to do that again. And then she lands on the ground, and the strain was pure murder. I could feel like I could sleep for a year. Boom! You're obviously the most powerful X-Men, my dear. With you down, the rest won't be any trouble. Boom. So North Star, establishing him as a jerk, just hits her when she's boom. And I love this. Aurora! Jean-Paul. So he just zaps him. Boom. Now, he hits him square in the face, knocks him back. I remember as a kid, I was just like, oh, man. Never before did anybody deserve that. That was just so called for. I till this day, I still don't like North Star because of that. He's just an arrogant jerk. And I do like that in Marvel, they tend to give the speedsters this arrogance. And I'm a fast walker, so when I'm walking and everybody's slow, I turn into Quicksilver, I turn into North Star. I'm just like, just move fast, so I totally understand this. You got all this speed and the rest of the world is in slow motion. It's got to be frustrating, but I love this. This Pink, he fires this beam, hits North Star. Now, I can't help but think, because that's the way I am, he's moving at super speed and he got hit. So that's the equivalent of running into a wall. So somebody's throwing a ball at you, but you're running into the ball. That velocity is converted into more kinetic energy. So boom, that blast was more devastating than it should be, kind of thing. Stippling Vaughn says, you're reading comic book, not watching documentary. Yes, skyscrapers can be empty in comic. Yeah, they can. But that's the kind of thing, and I thought the same thing too until I started working in skyscrapers. Yeah. If they said this, they're empty, then they're empty. You know what I mean? But I can't help but think like that. But they need to say in this comic, somewhere along the line, they got to say, thank God nobody was hurt. You know what I mean? Otherwise, I fill in the details, and that's just the way I am. You know what I mean? And we fill in the details. Please don't hate Herbie. He just wants to be your friend. I hated Herbie. I like Herbie the way they do him now as a helper, like a drone. I kind of like it now. I did like the way Herbie was used in the movie. I like the way Herbie's been used recently in the comics when Byrne introduced him later on. or I forget who. I think Byrne was drawing it as like a helper to Reed Richards. That's fine. That's fine. But I didn't like him as a full fledged member of the Fantastic Four, replacing the Human Torch. Shaman, what have you done? What have we done, comrade? Wow, that panel of Storm flying without a cape, amazing. Yeah, right here, this panel, this is a great panel. That is so good. I mean, this one is cool, but this panel, to me, and then over here, you know, that Storm costume is my favorite. Yeah, nobody, John Byrne drew Storm the best. Absolutely. Hands down, no argument. Attacking someone after they're exhausted and stop existing that your team caused is a jerk move, not to mention attacking. Yeah. I mean, attacking, yeah. Storm landed. She fixed the problem that you guys recklessly caused. She's obviously exhausted. You know, she's not putting any offensive moves. Yeah. I agree. And that's one of the reasons till this day I still don't like North Star because of this. You know, this we were talking about that. Marcus and I, it's clobber time. There's certain things comic characters don't come back from. Sorry, Green Lantern destroying Coast City. Yeah, I know. It's Parallax. You don't come back from that. White Queen is never coming back from her association with the Hellfire Club. You know, sorry, Emma Frost fans. You know, she's never coming. And you'll see when we get to it. We'll be getting to it soon. There's certain things you just never come back from. Herbie, a drone. Oh, no. So let's go back to the next page. Oh, no. We got an ad. Self-conscious? Gain pounds. I love this. Back in 1979, women were too skinny. You know, nowadays they're freaking fat and disgusting and twerking freaking folds of disgusting flab just flopping around like freaking wildebeests, and they're proud of it. Look at this ad. Be a magician, and it's upside down. Oh, wow. I never noticed it before. That is just such a failure of advertisement. Never make your advertisement difficult to read. I know it's, oh, look, we're magicians. It's clever. But I've looked at this comic for 40 years, and I've never noticed that. You know, what a failure. Iceman and Firestar could have covered for the Human Torch. Yeah, they could have thrown some. I know they can't use Spider-Man because he was probably licensed out for something else, but they could have created a whole new character. You know, besides her. I mean, they created a character. Unfortunately, it was Herbie. So, you lousy little Storm risked her life to save your misbegotten country. Do you think that blizzard your shaman created blew itself away? Pray she is badly hurt, North Star. As it is, you're about to lose some teeth. And turn about? No psych. What gives, Wolverine? I thought I'd be the one holding you back. Yeah, well, life's funny that way. Throwing you curves when you least expect. I checked her aura. She's okay, only a little stunned. As of now, this fracas is finished. Fracas. This fracas. It's my scrap, psych. I told you that. It's me they want. They couldn't care less about the X-Men. If I had a chance, if things hadn't gotten out of hand so fast, if I had started enjoying the roughhousing, I would have called it quits long ago and saved everyone a lot of grief. You're an X-Men, Wolverine. Your fights, our fights. I appreciate that, boss, more than you'll know. But I ain't going to see my friends chewed up on my account. You want me, Jimmy? I'm yours. You made the right decision, Wolverine. Tell me about it and let the X-Men go free, right? No matter what. You have my word. You better, bub. So Wolverine surrenders to Alpha Flight. And I like this little exchange. Oh, the turns have tabled. Cyclops is losing his crap, and I'm cheering him on at this point. You know, as much as I know Stippling rightfully has a beef with Cyclops, which is another thing. Me talking about characters that never recover from the damage done to them. The character assassination on Cyclops is irredeemable to the fact that Stippling, if you're still watching this, right, you just don't like this character, and I don't blame you. You've got a legit right. And this up at this point, when I was a kid, Cyclops was my favorite member of the X-Men. And only a few years later, I was like, this guy, I wouldn't toss him a rope if he was drowning, kind of thing. You know, I'm talking about the whole deadbeat dad thing. There's a million ways they could have handled it, especially in a world with magic powers and dealing with Jean Grey, who was a telepath. They could have handled it so much better. And they, in my opinion, they did it in the worst possible way. So, to me, look at that face. That face deserves a punch. That face just a good old fashioned plug, right? Boom! It would have been so satisfying. And now Wolverine over here, in a moment of, I don't know, shock, surprise, wisdom, whatever, he calls the fight off. He surrenders. He's going to deal with Alpha Flight. What a storm! If we hadn't found shelter, that wind would have flayed us alive. I think we need to thank Oro for that. If I had me sonic powers back, I bet I could vibrate through I'd give it a tap, maybe a poop, and it's gone. You're right, the barrier, Colleen. I felt it for an instant, and then poof, it vanished. And now, Wolverine's going away in the paddy wagon. The cage is specially designed for you, Shorty. You couldn't bust loose in a million years. Of course, you're so dumb you'll probably try. You always had a big mouth, Garcon. Keep flapping about me, and your wife will be a widow. So he knows all these people. Wolverine is not an animal, Cyclops. That man didn't have to treat him like that. I know. They are not only as lucky as we, Colossus. They know only the surface Wolverine. They know nothing of his true self. So the Canadian forces, it does nothing for, so now the average kid like me, 1979, geez, I'm 11 years old. I'm thinking Canada is like this repressive state. You know what I mean? It's oppressive government. They're supposed to be friendly Canada. And this John Byrne, the Canadian, he's not doing his country that much good. They're all villains, as far as I'm concerned. Storm is just like, what's going on? You guys want to turn Irby into a trash can. Yeah. Like I said, I like Irby as an accessory, a helper. I got no problem with that. But as a replacement for the Human Torch, no. Simply Born. F that two-timing arsehole. Maddie should have had their goblins ask rape. Yeah, you see what they did? Snow in Venezuela. There we go. So maybe Shaman caused this storm. The answer's right here. Shaman, what are you doing? He's coming after Wolverine again? Knock it off. Knock it off. If my house gets damaged because Canada's fighting with Wolverine, and one less comment. Well, it is. Yeah, it is now. Yeah. I remember the first time I was aware of Canada, politically. I just remember, was it the 80s? Yeah, so a couple of years after this, Canada passed these laws and they got Playboy taken off the shelf. The only way to get Playboy in Canada was to subscribe to it. And I thought that was weird, because I was one of these free speech. And even my parents, who were very religious, they were just that's what free speech is. It was drilled into my head, you defend other people's right for free speech. And like it or not, don't you read Playboy, don't you read Hustler, those are for bad people. But either we have freedom or we don't. And freedom means we have to tolerate stuff that we don't like, And I remember thinking, Canada got rid of Playboy. I thought they were better than us, kind of thing. So there you go. And then I think it came back not too soon after that. Canada is the furthest from an oppressive country. I don't know. Even Bird could tell Canada isn't a real country. Cyclops wasn't. Yes, at this point, but Stippling is younger than you and I. Stippling is at least 10 years younger than so he never was introduced to this Cyclops. He was introduced to the character assassination side. But it's in the books, so we have to accept it as part of him. That's one of my things. I subscribe to the Misery. If we see that movie Misery, when she has what's his name? Kane, James Caan, strapped to the bed. She's like, you got to write another book. So as he starts out, it was a dream. So it's just not a dream. It really happened. You have to start there. She was buried. So he starts with, being rescued from the coffin. So it's in the pages. Once it's in the pages, we have to accept it. It's just the way it is. So we have to accept that Cyclops did that. Now we could come up with some sort of explanation later on and blah, blah, blah. You know, Hal Jordan went nuts and blew up Coast City. Oh, it was Parallax. The damage is still done. It's still part of it. You know, we have to accept it. That's just the way it is in comic books. It's the kayfabe of comic books. It's in canon. We have to accept it. You know, same with like Hydra Cap. You know, we have to. So that to me is why the writers, the editors, and the custodians of the characters have. Is this going to irreversibly damage the character? That's what they need to think of. I was saying Canada has some unfortunate similarities to Venezuela. Oh, I thought you were saying that it's snowing. The storm is even in Venezuela. What is freedom without principle? Right. That's what Clockwork Orange is all about. You know, we want to get rid of crime, but do we want to get rid of free will? You know, what then we're just a Clockwork Orange. Just wind us up and we're alive. That we just sit there and vegetate. I agree that principle is important. Yes. Without principle, we're slaves. Oh, look at that cover. This is my first Daredevil comic. I never thought of Daredevil too much, but when I saw that cover, that was it. I was a Daredevil fan for life. That, you know, look at that cover. I remember seeing that in Howie's. He had a big stack of comics. I'm like looking for comics. How do I spend my extra 40 cents? And then I saw that cover. It was just like, that's what I'm getting. That's what I'm getting. So good. Iron Man, brains over brawn. And you know how I know this is a lie? You know how I know? Because fruit pies. No smart, intelligent superhero would have fruit pies. No, so this is a lie. This is a disgusting, horrible lie. The only person who likes fruit pies is Brian Bow, and we know he's into monsters instead of superheroes. So there you go. If you're a monster guy, you like fruit pies. If you like superheroes, you like Twinkies. That's the rules. I don't make them. I just observe the universe. So now, they've been watching us like hawks all morning. You'd think they didn't trust us. We might be crossing the border. We must be crossing our border. The escort is turning back. All right, we have to go. We have two alternatives, people. We could go home or go back after Wolverine. If we take the latter, I wouldn't make a book on our chances. But the way I see it, we have to try. Any objections? I'm in. I as well. Tovarich. Any change course, of course. Head for the Rockies as soon as it's feasible. Drop below radar cover and head north for Canada. We're going to rescue Wolverine whether he wants us to or not. I wouldn't do that if I were you, bub. Wolverine, what blazes are you doing here? What's it look like? I'm riding home in John in style with a pretty girl. But how? I thought that truck. Yeah, so did Jimmy. The trouble is there ain't a cage built that can hold me. What about next time? What about it? I can't worry about tomorrow, man. I take each day, each moment as it comes. No questions, no regrets. Look how cool Wolverine is. And if you're so flaming glad to see me, Psych, let's break out the drinking stuff and celebrate because the X-Men are going home. Dun, 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 dun. The X-Men are going home. You know, so here's Wolverine just hanging out with the pilot, chatting up with the hot chick. Let's drink, flaming crepes, you know, in a scrape. You know, I love the fake tough guy stuff, you know, and I always love to check out the names. We got Jerry Ironhouse, Debbie Lyon. That's a cool name. Debbie Lyon. Hi, I'm Debbie Lyon. And then we got the Toy Soldiers ad, prizes for cash. And then on the back, we got some cool Battlestar Galactica posters, full color t-shirts, posters. So cool. These incredibly beautiful shirts are fantastically low priced, $4.99. There you go. I love that comic. You know, Wolverine gives up. They put him in the cage, and then he just shows up. He sneaks on the airplane because Wolverine's cool. You know, it's just fun. Beat up on those Canadians. Where are we? Yeah. I was saying Canada has some unfortunate similarities to Venezuela. What is freedom without principle? Fruit pies are for monsters. These are truths that are coming out. Truths coming out. As a side note, Stephen King has been dropped by his publisher for writing woke books. Woke go broke. I won't eat Twinkies or fruit pies. You're probably smarter than all of us, but Twinkies are delicious. And I will say that I will eat an entire box of Twinkies if given the chance in one sitting. How'd he get there? He's Wolverine. Actually, Marcus, if I had known of this Scott Summers, I would have hated even more when I cheated. Actually, Marcus, if I had known of this Scott Summers, I would have hated it even more when I cheated and left his wife. You cheated and left Scott Summers' wife? So did he just slash his way to the truck? Wolverine is crazy. Yeah, I know. Like it's to me, it strains the limit of believability. How did he get out of the truck? You know, I could see him sneaking on the plane, like the pilot. He was like, "Come on, we're gonna get out of here." And she's like in on it, whatever. That don't bother me. But how did he get out of the truck without? They didn't observe. It just makes Alpha Flight look that much more incompetent, you know, and you know. They had the team disbanded in Alpha Flight #1. Like, I don't know. I would have brought that up. Like, we look like on our first official missions, we look like idiots. We caused property damage. We lost control of the storm. North Star was hitting the people that were trying to hurt us. The guy we captured escaped right on. You know, we need to do something about this. That, you know, they should have addressed that. You know, but instead, we got like Deadly Ernest and Gilded Lily. You know, it was just, I don't know, Alpha Flight. And then the Bill Mantlo run, it was just like, it as much as I like Bill Mantlo's Micronauts and a lot of, and his Hulk and stuff like that, that Alpha Flight was just not a good comic. And then they ruined North Star and Aurora, really elves from a hidden realm, and Puck is really a gigantic guy with a magic sword impaled to his body. It was just stupid. It's just stupid. What does Zach Ted say? Not sure what it is with these authors of series sabotaging the characters. Do they really want drama, or are they just out of touch? Well, from what I know, this was like a one-shot characters. You know, had they known that they were going to be hits and like, you know, stable characters of the Marvel Universe, I think they would have put more care into the story. But like, this is fine. This is fine. Introduce them like this. This is their rookie run. They're more powerful, you know, and I could see them like, oh, we're going up against an American team, overcompensating. You know, Canada does seem to have that like, golly gee whiz, if only we were as good as America kind of thing. You know, little brother looking at the big brother and trying too hard, you know, kind of. But then address it and, okay, we kind of messed up. We you know, we need to shape up, you know. And they fight Tundra, which was a pretty good, interesting story. And then they, like Marcus said, they just went and did individual stories that nobody cared about. You know, they needed like a good Avengers type story. Wolverine rolled a natural 20 on his stealth check. Maybe cut a hole in the bottom, and yeah, that to me that's the only way he could have gotten out. You know, Byrne traded Alpha Flight for the Hulk with Mantlo. Yeah. And I like Byrne's Hulk run, and then this became like a pattern with John Byrne. He would take over series, then like I think an editor would say something to him, and he would take his ball and go home, like he did with She-Hulk. He did with Hulk. I think Namor he stayed for a while. So there we go. That's the comic. Been talking for an hour, so I'll keep talking as long as the chat keeps going. But I need a sip of coffee. Speaking of Canada, here we got some Tim Hortons coffee. Here's Zach Tan says, "Oh, it's no church. I guess this church is canceled for the snow. Because normally you're saying I got to leave by now." Alpha Flight's introduction was all right and recoverable. I was talking about Cyclops. What were we saying? Oh, okay. Not sure what the author's series sabotaging the character. They want drama, or are they just out of touch? Yeah. Like I said, I don't think they had any long-term plans for Alpha Flight. These were just villains of the week kind of thing. And I remember people just were talking about them, Canadian superheroes, Canadian. It was just so cool and everything. But yeah, what they did to Tony Grigo in its Clobber time, he really made me aware of how DC mishandled a lot of its characters. I never really realized that before. But yeah, every once in a while they fumble the ball with their own characters. And I'm wondering, am I doing that with Patriarch? Like, the Subterranean, he got the wool pulled over his eyes. You know what I mean? And then when you see the story in issue 2, so I gotta give him a couple of good decisive wins before people think he's kind of a goof. Yeah. Omnipro says gotta go. Stay warm. Yeah, I ain't going out. I ain't going outside today. Yeah. Yes, church was canceled for this morning. Yeah, Byrne got sensitive. Yeah, right. Didn't he get into a fight with She-Hulk about shaving her legs? He got into a fight with Superman? He got into a fight with the Hulk. Like, his Hulk run just ended unceremoniously. Yeah, Byrne got he thought he was a diva. And I remember there was the Byrne 40,000. And whenever Byrne took over a comic book, sales would go up a consistent 40,000 comics a month. So there was, a 40. Can you imagine having 40,000 loyal fans that just followed you to whatever you did? Oh man, I could quit being an electrician tomorrow if I had 40,000 individual backers on each campaign. Oh my god, But that's the way it was back then. Significant bump. Stay safe, everybody. Everybody's leaving, so I guess this is a good way to end it. 19 degrees here in New York. Storm falling severe. These conditions expected to last until at least 1 p.m. Monday. 1 p.m. Monday. So we got over 24 hours of snow. I'm grounded, not allowed to leave, not worth the headache if I leave. I don't know what your day job is, but you're a wonderful artist, so draw. Take the most of it. I'm literally going to make another pot of coffee and write. I got a story that I'm bumping up. I just want to finish this story. I'm starting a story today. I was working on another story, but that's just the way it is. Like, I'm working on one story, but I got an idea, and I like to strike while the iron is hot. So that's what I'm going to do. I want to write this one story, an Unheroic Tales featuring Philip Manning, the big bad businessman from Mary Sue #1. I want to tell his background. You kind of know about Lucius Kane. Now I want you to know about Philip Manning. And then I wrote another story that had like in Blue Sunday, it had a military. It's King Fu goes to Vietnam to rescue an MIA soldier, and introducing kind of a military bad guy, the bad general. These are all comic book tropes. There's always a bad general. There's always a bad senator. There's always a bad businessman. The only trope I haven't introduced yet is the bad religious figure, which I have a couple of ideas for, but it's too ham-fisted as of yet. So whatever. Oh, not allowed to go to the bar to draw. Oh, okay. I thought maybe you're saying you work. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I know you don't work on Sundays. You always do your videos. So for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, Stippling Vaughn has a YouTube channel. Usually right after this, he goes down to the bar and gets into a bar fight. It's just him hitting people over the head with hockey sticks, breaking the hockey stick, stabbing it. And some guys, no, he's drawing. He's drawing while talking about comic books. it just, oh no, Stippling Vaughn's here. Everybody, duck. The waitress comes over. Here's your beer, sir. I don't know. If you met Stippling, you just laugh. That's funny. But he's in there. He has a special light bulb that he swapped out, so he's got the light, draws. It's cool. I like watching him. He talks about his reasons why he got a comic book signed. So check out Stippling Vaughn. Except this week, he won't be doing it because Shaman did a critical fumble on his Storm summoning powers. There should be a comic book series about Ice explaining the role to kids and deporting supervillains. Yeah, this is getting weird. I'm kind of avoiding talking about it because, I want to keep comic books, but it's getting weird. It's getting weird. We are in a dystopian future. Remember all those stories that we read about as a kid? you learn about ghost stories, kid. We're in one. So there you go. It's just funny how it works out. This comic book, the big part of this thing is an uncontrolled storm that's like getting the whole continent, and here we are in a big uncontrolled storm. But you know what's funny? This is the way winter was when I was a kid. I remember a foot of snow was just like, foot of snow. You know, it just happened all the time. I remember a couple of years there was like 3 or 4 foot of snowstorms in one year. This is just normal growing up weather. You know, and now we're freaking out. You know what we need to do? We need to raise taxes because of this. We need to raise taxes because there's a snow. Because if we raise taxes, then the government will fix those storms. Just like they fix the roads and the schools and the post office and healthcare, you know, and the borders. We need more taxes because there's a storm. Zaktan says, as much as I dislike the bad religious figure, it does have its place. There are bad leaders, especially of little cults and Americans. Right. And I'm trying to work with comic book tropes. It's a comic book tropes. The bad religious guy, the bad businessman, the bad politician. So I have the bad politician, Lucius Kane. He's the mayor of Science City. The bad businessman is Philip Manning. I want to get the bad military guy, you know, the guy chomping the cigarettes and just ready to machine gun down everything, you know. I kind of hinted at him. I don't want to force it, but I kind of hinted at him in a story that's written that Renzo is going to draw next, and then the bad religious guy. Like I have him in my head. I have his name. I know what he's doing. I know his back, but I just haven't figured the right story to introduce him yet. Big government, big business, we like individualism. Yep. If we tax the storm, they will leave for low tax. There you go. We increase taxes on the storm, and then that's good. That sucks. Stippling for not allowed to go to the bar. So like I'm getting is this like, you know, your girl is just like, you're not going out today, or is it like literally somebody is telling you like the mayor stay put, you know, because like. If I was to say, like, I'm going to go to the diner, my wife would be like, you're not going to the diner. So yesterday we went to Five Guys, and it was awesome. It was awesome. There's if you leave my house, there's a Five Guys over there, and there's a Shake Shack over there. So last week we tried Shake Shack, and it just wasn't good. I've been saying for a couple of years, Shake Shack was my favorite out of all the fast food places. You know, expensive fast food places, and the only place I've had Shake Shack was in Penn Station, and it's insane because you go into Shake Shack, you get the Shake Shack burger, cheeseburger, fries, and a soda. It's $18. How ridiculous is that? But it was delicious. So my wife yesterday, she's last Saturday, she's like, let's go to Five Guys. And I was like, let's try the new Shake Shack. And I always do that. I feel bad. She always comes up with an idea, then I always change her idea. So we went to the Shake Shack, and it was just like the onion rings were perfect. But the fries were lukewarm. The burger was okay. And it was like $40 for 2 people. So then yesterday, she's like, we're going to Five Guys because that's what she wanted. So I shut my mouth. Oh my God. Again, it was $40. Like we were joking. I took a down payment against my mortgage to go to Five Guys, but it was so good. It was so good. The fries are great. The burger was awesome. You know, Five Guys. So I guess it's official. I like Five Guys better and the hot dogs at Five Guys are so good. So I got a hamburger, got a bacon cheeseburger all the way. They put like everything on it. It was like this unwieldy burger that I had to use the tinfoil, you know. We got the fries, and then to go, we got shakes, and I got a hot dog. And I ate the hot dog for dinner, and then went right to bed last night around 2 o'clock in the morning. After talking on the phone. Oh, girlfriend Agate. Yeah. Five Guys. Love their Cajun fries. They got Cajun fries at Five Guys or Shake Shack? I haven't been to Shake Shack. Yeah, the Shake Shack by me has like Korean fried chicken burgers and stuff like that. Like my wife said, she said she'll give him another chance. It was just like, and then like the staff, my wife, she worked in fast food for a long time growing up, as we all did, and she was just like, she's like, look, what do you notice? We were sitting there watching. It's one of those places where the cooking area is all open, so you can see everybody. I'm like, I don't. She goes, nobody's talking, nobody's joking. She goes, they're all miserable. I was like, oh wow, yeah. And when we went to Five Guys yesterday, same thing. It's all an open. They were all joking with each other, and the food was delicious. So I don't know what's going on. That Shake Shack has bad morale. The food, usually at Shake Shack and stuff, that like you get the food steaming hot, but it was just, the fries were the only thing hot and good were the onion rings. Everything else, and for the money you're paying. So we were disappointed with the Shake Shack by us. Like I said, the only other Shake Shack I've been to is in Penn Station. It's awesome. Do you know what? I miss Roy Rogers. There were a few around, but not many. Yeah, I used to love Roy Rogers. Oh my! And Roy Rogers had the best French fries growing up as a kid. And it's gonna sound like a fat guy, but like the buns, they tasted so good. Like no other buns were as good as Roy Rogers buns. It tasted like they took the buns and then they toasted them and then put butter on them. It was so good. And then they put these buttered buns on a burger. Oh man, my mouth. And the only time I see Roy Rogers now is like when I'm driving on the highway in like truck stops, but all the food is all already made and it's under those heat lamps, and it's just like I dry it out and it's not as good. In New York area, Wendy's bought all the Roy Rogers. So Five Guys is expensive. Might as well go. Yeah, exactly. But me and my wife have this thing when you have a craving, we don't have a craving every day, but my wife was craving Five Guys burgers and fries. So, and then I talked her out of it and went to Shake Shack, and she was disappointed. So, and I get mad at that when I say this is what I want, and then like we go someplace else. I'm like, so I was like, I did it again. So I didn't want to mess with her plans. Sounds like Shaq has a boss. Five Guys has a leader. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Fixin' bars too. Yeah, Roy Rogers had the fixin' bar. You're absolutely right. I forgot about that. A manager of Shake Shack will only be a boss regardless of the environment. Will always be a loser amongst their peers. I don't know. Like, can you buy a franchise and you're the owner, go there and try to do the best you can, you know what I mean? But I don't know what's going on at that Shake Shack, but it was just like everybody looked miserable, and then you go, it's like I said, over here's the Five Guys, over here is the Shake Shack, and then if you go straight, there's this Chick-fil-A. You go into the Chick-fil-A, everybody's happy, because it's the same. It's the same with Shake Shack. You get like a little number and you sit at the table, and they bring the girl who brought out the food. It was just like, boom, walked away. And I was just like, did I say something? Like, she just looked so annoyed. And my wife's like, nah, she's miserable. But at Chick-fil-A, they're like, how you doing? How's everything? Oh yeah, do you need napkins? I think that the staff at Chick-fil-A just seem generally happy to be there, and I believe that. That's, when I'm at work, doing construction, there's sooner or later there's layoffs. Like the closer you get to a job, the less people they need, people get laid off. And everybody's like, who do you think's going to go? Who do you think's going to go? And I don't say anything because that's just bad morale. I'm just like, whatever, just work, whatever. But if it was up to me, get rid of the most miserable person. Get rid of it doesn't matter if he's a good worker, get rid of the most miserable people. Because the miserable people they just bring down morale, that they're like cancer. Just get rid of the miserable people, provided everybody else, if everybody else can do the job, get rid of the miserable people. Keep the happy people. And I think because of that, sooner or later, if you have a business and an office and everybody 20 years with miserable people, get rid of them. Just get rid of them. You'll find happy people. I like Chick-fil-A. I like Chick-fil-A too, but the last time I had Chick-fil-A, I was just like, it's delicious. It's absolutely mouth-wateringly delicious, but I'm like, it doesn't seem like what part of the chicken is this? This is, it seems like weird. it's like mutant chicken or something like that. So like I'm kind of getting wary of Chick-fil-A. Doesn't seem right. I'm always miserable. Don't be miserable. Just draw the public eye. You'll be happy. So anything else? Anything? Anybody? We got a bunch of people watching. I guess there's nothing else to do on this stormy Sunday. At this point, I usually talk about my week. So let's see. Let me get my phone, my calculator. Not my calculator, my calendar. So Tuesday, I have Jeff D at noon, one of the co-creators of Village Vigilantes. That should be interesting. Wednesday, Carol Brown. And then Wednesday night, comic book team up. I think Thursday night, I'm going to start a new show called Avengers Assemble. And I'm just going to start, with the first Avengers that I started collecting is 150. So it's around there. I'm going to look at the cover, see which one I'm going to start with, and then just do like up to like 200 or 202, the end of that absorbing it, and just talk about the Avengers run. Oh, if you've never seen these comics, you're in for such a treat. And then Thursday night at midnight, it's clobbering time. We're going to talk about the team of Julius Schwartz and what's his name? Why is it Julius Schwartz and versus Jack Kirby Stan Lee? Why can't I think of the guy's name? And then that's my week. So I got a full week. Back to a full week. So that's that. I can hear my wife walking around. She's probably waiting for me to do something. So I guess this is the time to say goodbye, kids. So there we go. What just happened? What just happened? So I will end it now. All right. See ya. Have a good week. Shovel your snow. Stay warm. Bye, kids.
Goodbye, kids.